conform to established standard, that is fairness, justice, and moral rightness. Just and unjust. Just and unjust are contextual. Just action, decision, outcome conform to established standard, that is fairness, justice, and moral righteousness. Rule of law. Uh, Unjust action, decision, outcome violate established standard, that is discrimination. Murder, it is a Ambedkar. Law and order are the medicine of the body politic, and when the body politic gets sick, medicine must be administered. Thomas Aquinas, as a law that is unjust is not a law at all. Aristotle, just is not justice is not absolute, it is relative to the condition of a society. Why just unjust are contextual, changing social values and moral consciousness, 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 changing social value and moral consciousness, changing social value and moral consciousness. Historical, historical and contextual, context shaped by historical condition. Example, colonial rule, sedition, 124A IPC, now omitted. Economic and material condition, economic realities determine what is fair and unfair. Example, laissez-faire, earlier capitalism accepted it, now redistribution, subsidies, reservation. Article 38, 39, 39A, power structure and social position. Fourth, power structure and social position. Justice depend who holds the power. Example, long working hours, labor law unjust, marital rape now recognized. Advancement of knowledge and reason, scientific and psychological understanding alter justice standard. Example, juvenile justice, now 16 to 18 will treated as adult if done heinous crime. Dynamic interpretation of law. Example, constitution is living constitution, living document. Example, Menaka Gandhi 1978 due process of law incorporated. Example K.S. Puttaswamy 2017 privacy as a fundamental right. International norms and global ethics. Globalization influence each other. Example abolition of death penalties. No, no rare in many democracies. Second example of universal declaration on human right SDGs. Value role Ethical values role in resolution of conflict. Ethical value Ethical values role in resolution of conflict. First, integrity prevent conflict at source. Integrity prevent conflict at source. Example, officer avoid favoritism. Second, self control and temperance reduce escalation. Self control and temperance reduce escalation. Example, respond calmly to the press conference. Third, justice ensure fairness. Objectivity minimize personal bias. Empathy enable perspective taking. 6. Honesty facilitate open communication. 7th, tolerance and pluralism ensure harmony. Ethical reasoning balance legality, compassion, and consequences. 9. Conscience act as a final arbiter. Accountability build in institutional credibility. Transparency reduce suspicion. Ethical leadership set moral tone. Ethical leadership set moral tone. Crisis of conscience. There is a higher court than the court of justice. That is court of conscience. Gandhiji. That is court of conscience. Conscience. Gandhiji. Human conscience is a judge and human conscience is a judge that cannot be bribed. Immanuel Kant. Human conscience is a judge that cannot be bribed. Immanuel Kant. Coward asks, is it safe? Expectancy asks, is it politic? Conscience asks, is it right? Martin Luther Jr. King. Where rule and conscience conflict, conscience must guide conduct. Second ARC. Crisis of conscience occurs when individual morally aware what is right but feel unable or unwilling to act accordingly due to the fear, pressure, and conflict of interest. Causes of crisis of conscience: fear of consequence. Example job loss, transfer, etc. Second, conflict of interest. Personal gain versus duty. Third, organizational pressure and hierarchy. Example, obedience to senior. Organizational pressure and hierarchy. Example, obedience to senior. Fourth, absence of ethical leadership. Second ARC. Normalization of unethical practice. Banality of evil. Hannah Arendt. Bribery. Chalta hai attitude. Careerism and materialism. Instrumental reasoning replacing moral reasoning. Instrumental reasoning replacing moral reasoning. Instrumental reasoning replacing moral reasoning. Example or manifestation of crisis of conscience. First, at individual level, witnessing injustice but choosing to be silent. For example, domestic violence. Second, normalizing small dishonesty. Example, cheating in exam, fake medical certificates, etc. Third, conflict between loyalty and truth. Example, loyalty to friend over honesty. At work, workplace organization, silence against workplace harassment. Example, colleague not supporting victim. Second, manipulation of data report, that is career growth versus truth. Third, unethical order from superior. Example, favoritism versus merit. Third, public administration and in governance, selective enforcement of law. Example, political pressure. Second, illegal detention. Example, during emergency. Suppression of dissent. Example, protester get arrested. Internet shutdown. Misuse of discretion. License clearance to the to own people. Excuse of force. I'm sorry, excess use of force, custodial violence. 6, justice delay. Example, 5 crore case pending. Emotional intelligence. Individual level, cultivate moral courage, strength, inner conscience. At individual level, cultivate moral courage, strength, inner conscience. Example, Ashok Khemka. Ashok Khemka in land deal. Ashok Khemka land deal. Prevented illegal land deal. Second, ethical reasoning and reflection. Example, doctor during COVID-19 choosing public welfare. Second, at governance and institutional reform. Robust whistleblower protection. Example, Edward Snowden exposed US surveillance over the world. In India, Whistleblower Protection Act 2014, ethical leadership and role modeling. Example, is Sridharan foster corruption-free work culture. Safe space for dissent. Example, NASA Columbia disaster. Result of avoiding dissent opinion. Swift justice. For example, fast track court, ethical reward, unethical punish. Fourth, strengthen constitutional safeguard. Example, enforcement of a DPSP. 6, ethical infrastructure in organization, code of ethics, conduct ethical audit mechanism, reducing discretion. Example, more stringent RTI. Way forward given by second ARC recommendation. Four pillars. First, there should be a code of ethics. Clarify what is morally right. Second, ethics committee. There should be a ethics committee. Committee which provides advice, reduce isolation of decision maker. Third, e-governance. Reduce discretion, minimize personal bias. Fourth, Whistleblower Protection Act. Shield for officials moral courage. Shield for officials moral courage. How emotional intelligence help in crisis of conscience. Emotional intelligent, ability to understand, manage and use emotion ethically. Emotional intelligence is a bridge between moral knowledge and moral action. First, Self-awareness, recognizing moral discomfort. Emotional intelligence helps in first self-awareness, recognizing moral discomfort. Example, officer asked to manipulate data. Second, self-regulation, resisting unethical practice. Ashok Khemka maintain integrity despite multiple transfer. Empathy, understand the impact, ability to understand the impact. DM refusing eviction without rehabilitation. COVID-19 ensured migrant welfare. During COVID-19, officials ensured migrant welfare. Moral courage through emotional intelligence. Example is Sridharan prioritizing public interest. Social skill, ethical communication and negotiation. Ethical communication and negotiation. Example, IPS managing the crowd. Second, ARC, ethical governance thrives where dissent is encouraged. Second, ARC, ethical governance thrive where the dissent is encouraged. 6. Managing stress and ethical fatigue. Managing stress and ethical fatigue. Healthcare worker during COVID-19. Balancing personal safety and resource security. 7. Value align with action. Example, Gandhiji, conscience is a voice of soul. Example, Gandhiji, conscience is a voice of soul. 8. Ethical leadership and culture. Example, emotionally intelligent leader creates psychologically safe workplace. Example, Subhash Chandra Bose. Conflict resolution without ethical compromise. Example, IPS using negotiation and empathy in a protest. OECD framework. OECD framework to resolve crisis of conscience. Ethical competence as a core ethical public service. Ethical competence as a core ethical public service. Supreme Court in Navtej Singh Johar, constitutional morality is greater than the social morality. Constitutional morality required emotional intelligence. Second, Manoj Narola, 2014, ethical conduct in public administration require emotional intelligence. Article 51A, moral responsibility of citizen and officials. Innate or acquired ability to perform a task efficiently, effectively, and ethically. 3 is in aptitude, innate or acquired ability to perform a task efficiently, effectively, and ethically. Plato, each man should do what he is good at or best fitted for. Aristotle and Daniel Goleman, we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence then is not a talent but a habit. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence then is not a talent but a habit. Characteristics of aptitude inborn. Example, leadership and risk-taking ability. Second, task-specific. Forest officer required ecological aptitude, not universal aptitude. Third, learnable and developable. Example, emotional aptitude for police. Example, Lavasana ethical training. Fourth, value dependent. Technical aptitude required integrity. Value dependent. Aptitude is a value dependent. Example, technical aptitude require integrity. Fifth, contextual and situational specific. Disaster management require quick decision making. Welfare scheme require empathy. Measurable and accessible. Example, UPSC CSAT. dynamic and not static. IPS conflict resolution. IPS required conflict resolution aptitude, dynamic and not static, interdisciplinarily in nature. Example, COVID-19 management required emotional intelligence, ethical sensitivity, scientific understanding, etc. Action-oriented DM, implementing welfare scheme. Type of type of aptitude: physical, mental, and applied. Physical: fitness, stamina, strength, endurance. Example: police and armed forces. Second, mental: logical reasoning, problem solving approach, judgment. Example: judge and mathematician, administrative officers, teachers, etc. Applied aptitude. Example: environmental, ecological, emotional intelligence, social, professional, leadership. Example: handling public grievances. Aptitude versus skill. Aptitude tells why. Why? Aptitude is a direction. Aptitude give direction. Skills helps the helps the work get done. Helps the helps the work get done. Example: IPS, public service oriented plus file work. Disaster. Example: in a disaster situation, calmness under pressure plus rescue operation. Aptitude is a seed, skill is a fruit. Together, good governance. Conflict of interest. When personal interest, that is financial, professional, family, political, etc. Personal When personal interest, that is financial, professional, family, political, etc. Interferes or appears to interfere with the performance of duty we are interested with. When personal interest, that is financial, professional, family, political, etc., interferes or appears to interfere with performance of our duty we are interested with, is give rise to conflict of interest. Public officer is a public servant. Supreme Court. Justice must not be only done but must also appears to be done. Second ARC. Conflict of interest erode credibility credibility of governance even without corruption. A civil servant must be fearless and incompatible. Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. Public officers should public office should not be used for private gain. Types of conflict of interest: actual conflict, perceived conflict, and potential conflict. Actual directly affected duty versus personal interest. Example: officer awards contract to firm owned by his family member. Second example: insider trading, confidential data used for personal benefit. Example: Satyam scam 2015, corporate fiduciary duty versus personal financial gain. Fodder scam, perceived conflict, even without bias, it's appear bias. Judge hearing case of former client. DM hearing case involved close friend. Potential conflict, personal interest may influence official duty. Policy maker framing policy may benefit post retirement. Regulator likely to join company he regulates now. Forms of conflict of interest: financial, family, post retirement, political, professional. Causes: lack of ethical training and awareness, performance pressure and target based governance, absence of recusal mechanism, social obligation and cultural pressure, weak ethical culture in institution, dual position, Example, doctor referring patient government hospital to his own private clinic. According to CAG report. Gift culture undue influence. CAG report says officials private sponsored foreign trade. Weak enforcement of code of conduct and ethics. Way forward. Way forward for the conflict of interest or crisis of conscience. No, no Land Committee 1995. No Land Committee 1995. Committee on Standard in Public Life. Committee on Standard in Public Life gave seven principles to be followed. Honesty, integrity, selflessness. Honesty, integrity, selflessness, objectivity, accountability, openness, and leadership. Direct antidote to conflict of interest. Direct antidote to conflict of interest. OECD. OECD, Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development. Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development. Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development. Conflict of interest management gave three pillars. First, identify. Second, manage. Third, resolve. First, identify. Official disclose financial interest, family connection, future job perspective. Second, manage. Rescue, restrict, transfer, duty or divestment. Example, DM recused from tender committee. Third, resolve. Legal action or moral humiliation. Legal action or moral humiliation. Legal action or moral humiliation. Second ARC recommendation. Clear definition of conflict of interest. 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 Mandatory disclosure of asset and liability. Mandatory disclosure of asset and liability. Mandatory disclosure of assets and liability. Mandatory disclosure of assets and liability. And liability. Mindless adherence to rule, law, and regulation, mechanical compliance, insensitivity to human consequence, neglect of discretionary space, power, derail constitutional democratic value, legalism, versus spirit, legal versus spirit. Reasoning, prudence. means sealed behind rule, status quo mindset. Law and regulation. Mechanical compliance. M for mechanical compliance. I for insensitivity to human consequence. N for neglect of discretionary space or power. D for derail of constitutional or democratic value. L for legalism, red tapeism, later, later versus spirit. E for L for legalism, that is later versus spirit. A for erosion of ethical reasoning, erosion of ethical reasoning, prudence, erosion of ethical reasoning or prudence. S for sealed behind rule. S for status quo is mindset, causes. F fear law, fear law. F for fear of vigilance, audit, inquiry. E for excessive rule based culture, excessive rule based culture. A for absence of ethical training, absence of ethical training. L for L for lack of accountability for outcome. A for authoritarian, anti-innovation, authoritarian mindset. Or W for weak and weak moral culture. Consequence, trust loss. T for trust deficit in governance. R for rule of law appear unjust. U for undermine welfare objectives. S for systemic inefficiency. T for transactional burden on citizen. Transactional burden on citizen. L for loss of legitimacy over bureaucratization. S for social alienation. S for social slow decision making. Way forward. Humane. Human centric governance. Understand U for understand legislative intent. A for accountability for outcome. N for necessity guide the guide action. E for emotional intelligence. Definition of ethics. Ethics in private. Philosophy and establish standard. Tell what you have right to do and what is right to do on the basis of rationality to achieve summum bonum. Article 51A. 51AE. Promote harmony, brotherhood. Mother Teresa, ethics of love. Essence of ethics, moral consequence, inner voice. Rationality and reason choice. Rationality and reason choice, that is decision is reason, reflect and reflection and deliberation. Decision made on the basis of reason, reflection and deliberation. Example, Maneka Gandhi 1978 due process of law. Example, using persuasion instead of force. Example, use of persuasion rather than force in a protest. Universality, that is irrespective of person, power or position. Article 14, equality before law. Minister or common minister or a common man. Example, minister or a common man. For human dignity and respect. Example, respectful treatment of under trial. Just and fair, responsibility and accountability, empathy and compassion, integrity, influenced by multiple sources. Multiple sources: constitutional morality, religion, Hinduism, good conduct, Islam, charity, Christianity, honesty, Jain Buddhism, non-violence, Upanishad, Maha Upanishad, Vasudev Kutumbakam. The essence of ethics lies in harmonizing individual conscience with a constitutional values to promote justice, dignity, and collective welfare. Dharma Rakshita Rakshita Dharma protect those who protect it. Determinants of ethics, factor that shapes moral thinking, value orientation, and ethical behavior of individual and institution. First, conscience. Example: Raja Ram Mohan Roy. Raja Raja Ram Mohan Roy fought against Sati, value of Sati, fought against Sati, that is voice of conscience. Second, intention. Example: Gandhiji Swaraj, therefore non-cooperation. Family, early socialization, determinants of ethics. Family, early socialization. Example: tradition of sanskara, respect elder, learn honesty, integrity, and tolerance. Education system, reasoning, critical thinking. Example: Article 51A H, promotion of scientific temper and humanism. Culture, tradition, and religion, vegetarian in Jain, non-violence is in Buddhism. Law, constitution, and institution. RTI Act 2005, transparency and ethical governance. Navjot Singh Sidhu, Navtej Singh Johar, constitutional morality, greater than social morality. Political and administrative leadership. Lal Bahadur Shastri, personal integrity. Second, ARC leadership is essential. Ethical is central in ethical governance. Economic condition, petty corruption among low paid employed. Low paid employee. Consequence: individual, non-individual, organization, national, international.